At the mouth of the Columbia River, peace is the last thing you'll find. Here, river currents and Pacific swells clash in a nonstop brawl, creating towering waves, deadly currents, and enough wrecks to earn the name Graveyard of the Pacific. Amid this chaos stands an unsung hero, a 10.5-kilometer rock wall. It doesn't gleam like the Golden Gate or scrape the sky like the Empire State, but it quietly shields billions in trade from disaster. Without it, supply chains would be as unreliable as Wi-Fi in a storm. So how do you build a rock wall strong enough to tame one of Earth's fiercest ocean battlegrounds? And why does every single boulder in it have its own number? Let's find out. A river that doesn't play nice. The Columbia River is no dainty trickle. Stretching more than 2,000 kilometers and draining water from 7 states and even parts of Canada, it is the heavyweight champion of the U.S. West Coast. For centuries, it has fueled economies, connected communities, and carried everything from salmon to steel. But where the Columbia kisses the Pacific, that's where the romance ends. Beneath the surface lies a steep underwater slope, which basically means the river and the ocean currents collide like two toddlers fighting over the last cookie. Swells as tall as 12 meters smash against the river's outflow, creating whirlpools of doom. Add in winter storms, and suddenly you're sailing into what mariners once called the most dangerous bar crossing on Earth. No wonder so many ships met their end here. By the late 1800s, the U.S. government had seen enough and decided that something had to be done before trade collapsed and sailors started staging revolts. They realized that if they wanted to protect commerce and lives, they would have to force the river into submission. Jetty, set, go. The 19th century fix. In 1882, a bold idea was approved: tame the river with massive stone jetties. These weren't meant to be pretty seawalls for tourists to stroll along. They were colossal barricades designed to stabilize the river's mouth, flush sediment into the ocean, and keep sand from clogging up the shipping channel. Construction began in 1885 on the South Jetty, which eventually stretched 7.2 kilometers into the sea. Imagine workers back then laying down wooden pilings, building temporary railroads, and rolling boulders one by one into the crashing waves. Forget CrossFit. This was the ultimate workout. And unbelievably, it worked. The once chaotic river mouth calmed down, ships stopped running aground on sandbars, and trade flowed more freely. But here's the catch. The Pacific Ocean doesn't do forever fixes. By the 1930s, waves had pounded sections of the jetty into rubble. Cue another round of stone dumping, and then another, and another. The ocean, as it turns out, is very good at playing the world's slowest but most destructive version of Jenga. The $250 million rock wall of today. Nearly 150 years later, the government is at it again, but this time bigger, stronger, and smarter. Starting in 2016, engineers launched one of the largest jetty reconstruction projects in U.S. history, with a price tag north of $250 million. The work is divided into 3 major sections. Jetty A was rebuilt between 2016 and 2017. The North Jetty was completed in 2020. And then there is the South Jetty, the real heavyweight of the operation. Work on it began in 2019 and is expected to finish in 2025, with the bill for this single section alone coming to $166 million. Why so expensive? Because this isn't just about dumping rocks and calling it a day. This is engineering with the precision of brain surgery, except the patient is a raging ocean that constantly tries to undo your work. Rocks the size of SUVs and heavier than elephants. The numbers behind this project are staggering. Rebuilding the South Jetty requires 411,000 tons of rock, and not just any rocks. These are boulders weighing between 5 and 35 tons each. To put that in perspective, the smallest stone is heavier than an adult elephant, and the largest could crush your car like it was made out of soda cans. Getting these rocks was no walk on the beach. Crews blasted entire hillsides and quarries located hundreds of miles away. But the goal wasn't to reduce the rock to rubble. They needed giant chunks. Some pieces came out weighing over 80 tons and had to be cut down to a manageable 30 tons. Each stone was then weighed, tagged, and tracked like a VIP guest at a red carpet event. You might lose track of your car keys, but these engineers weren't about to misplace a 25-ton boulder. A rock's epic road trip. Once tagged, The stones embarked on a journey worthy of its own reality show, Rock on the Road. Massive trucks, sometimes hauling just a single boulder, drove them to the coast. From there, barges carried up to 10,000 tons per trip down the Columbia River. But the real fun began at the jetty itself. Trucks had to haul rocks along the narrow wall, sometimes reversing for long stretches like the world's most stressful attempt at parallel parking. Each trip could take up to 20 minutes, and that was before the stone was even placed. At the end of this gauntlet stood the star of the show, a customized Caterpillar 6020B mining excavator unlike anything else in the world. Outfitted with a 27-meter boom, a specialized rock bucket, and a thumb attachment that could grip boulders like chopsticks, this beast placed each stone with surgical precision. To make it even more impressive, the excavator was equipped with GPS technology, meaning every rock was positioned down to the inch. It's basically Google Maps for boulders. Engineering meets art. Picture this scene. Waves roar, wind howls, and yet the excavator operator delicately lowers a 30-ton stone into the surf as if it were a piece of fine china. The boulder rotates, nudges, and finally locks into place with its neighbors. Piece by piece, the wall grows, like a giant Lego set for people with very strong backs and very large budgets. But this wasn't guesswork. Engineers designed the placement so tightly that the stones interlocked, resisting the Pacific's constant pounding. It was part science, part art, and part sheer stubbornness against nature itself. For 5 construction seasons, crews packed up every winter, returned in the spring, and battled storms, tides, and logistical nightmares. And still, the wall continued to grow, defying the ocean's relentless assault. Trade, coastlines, and your online orders. You might be wondering, okay, cool wall, but why should I care? Simple. Without it, the shipping channel could clog with sand in a single storm. That means cargo ships, carrying everything from cars to coffee, would be stuck. Supply chains would seize up, and suddenly your 2-day delivery becomes a 2-month delivery. And if you've ever waited impatiently for an online order, you know how disastrous that would be. But it's not just about trade. The jetties also shape the coastline itself. Since the first stones were dropped in the 1800s, beaches have built up in some areas while erosion has gnawed away in others. With rising sea levels, stronger storms, and the looming threat of earthquakes, scientists warn the region could sink by up to 8 feet during a major quake. This balance is always in flux. In short, this rock wall isn't just protecting ships, it is protecting land, livelihoods, and the economy. The unsung hero. By the time the South Jetty rebuild wraps up in 2025, nearly a decade of effort will have gone into this project. Workers will have battled storms, tides, and logistical nightmares. They will have placed every rock with precision, stacked them like puzzle pieces, and created a barrier so solid that even the Pacific has to think twice before throwing a tantrum. And yet most people have never heard of it. It's not glamorous. You won't find postcards of the Columbia River Jetties at tourist shops. But if you enjoy smooth global trade, stocked grocery shelves, and reliable coastal infrastructure, you owe a quiet thank you to this wall of stone. A wall built on grit, granite, and genius. So next time you see a cargo ship gliding safely into port, remember that behind that smooth journey lies a century-old battle against the ocean's fury. It was fought not with flashy skyscrapers or iconic bridges, but with plain old rock, placed with extraordinary skill. The Columbia River Jetties may never trend on Instagram, but they are one of America's most important defenses. They are proof that sometimes the most incredible engineering marvels are the ones we never notice until they are gone. And if nothing else, it is a reminder that when life hurls massive waves at you, maybe the best defense really is just one very well-placed rock at a time. And that's the story of the giant rock wall you probably never knew existed. If you enjoyed this deep dive into engineering marvels that don't get the spotlight they deserve, make sure to hit that like and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. And until next time, remember, when life gets stormy, sometimes the best solution really is one really well-placed rock at a time.